Hello and welcome to this video, which is a portion of the annual report for Abingdon Episcopal Church for the year 2020. Throughout the year 2020, as we faced pandemic, we focused on being community. This series of conversations are by members of our community as we focus on the ministries that we did. As we think back to when the church was founded, as we read in the book of Acts, there are many characteristics which define the church. As we find ourselves in a new situation, we too had to ask ourselves, what are we being as we learn to be the church? As the early church did, they had to learn. As we have had to do in this pandemic, we have had to learn. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with members of Abingdon Church as we explore how we learned and affirmed our opportunity to be the church God has called us to be. Well, this is a conversation that we're having with the two wardens of Abingdon Church, Frank West and Natalie Johnson, as we reflect on 2020. And throughout all of these conversations I've had with different ministries at Abingdon Church, I'm sort of raised up for this new pandemic. How has Abingdon been the church? In this conversation, we're going to talk about sort of the larger issues of mission and communication. And my gosh, it's been a year. I was thinking back, I had to look back at my email, but I was thinking back to February of 2020. In February, I sent an email to both of you and a host of other people in the medical profession saying, I've seen these news reports that this thing called COVID might not be an issue, but just in case it is, maybe we should think about not shaking hands during the peace, and I'd appreciate any advice we had from the medical people on what we should do. Had no idea what was coming down the pipe. So here we are.
To say the least. Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, what a difference a year makes. And, you know, I remember those early phases of communication about sort of, you know, what may come and what we would do. And as I thought back on the year, you know, just getting ready to talk with you all, it just really sort of struck me that our church, you know, really did pivot at the time that all this kind of happened. We just we didn't wait around to see what's going to happen. We didn't put things on a prolonged pause. I mean, we certainly approached things cautiously and appropriately based on the situation. But you know, I really saw our church community pivot, and that made a big difference to kind of keep our work going as the church. You know, it helped us be Abingdon in pandemic, and we may not have known it as that was starting, but that was what we were charged to do in a lot of ways.
It certainly did ask us to do a lot in those early days. And I remember that the vestry gathered together on that first Sunday we didn't have church for just, you know, to see how we were all doing.
And we, and like everything else, the vestry has evolved with how we have managed to be a vestry. I don't remember the exact Sunday that when we decided we were going to do check-in, but we did. And so now, and for the last year, instead of just really meeting in our usual once a month vestry meeting, as far as a group, because we would see each other in church and in coffee hour or whatever, but as a group, we've had these check-ins every Sunday. They weren't mandatory, but most of us came most of the Sundays that we could. And we talked about our liaisons and who we talked to, or, you know, who we knew was sick, who had a fall or whatever. And it was just, I guess, a good linkage, a good continuation, just a way of being in touch with each other when we couldn't be together. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that was something that we Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right, Natalie. And you could kind of feel on the vestry, you could kind of feel things shifting in a pastoral nature. And it actually kind of reminded me of when Sarah and I first came to Gloucester. What we really loved and made us kind of fall in love with this area when we got here is that people were so welcoming to us and kind, and they were inviting us to things, and they were contacting us and just reaching out to us. And we kind of talked about it, after the fact, that we could almost feel that people were kind of reaching out and kind of grabbing onto us to kind of bring us in and hold us. And it was funny because that happened just kind of being here in this area. And then it happened to us again about a year later when we started going to Abingdon, and it was so meaningful to us. And it was funny because when we started the Sunday check-ins and things kind of shifted towards pastoral conversations with vestry, we all knew it was going to be a challenging time and that there were difficulties ahead. And it kind of felt to me reminiscent of that. You could sort of feel the vestry members sort of reaching out to each other and to our contacts, just trying to be the community of Abingdon and let each other know we were there for each other.
You're just trying to hold it together, calling, sending cards, whatever. It just evolved into what it is now. I mean, and I, even like we've been talking, this will never be over, not over. But I think we're just learning to live with it. But I think what we've started probably will, I don't know about the check-ins, but I think just the behavior, the tradition. Maybe we've got a new tradition now about how we function as Abington community and as in the larger community also.
Well, and I would say that when an individual gets under pressure, you sort of see some qualities about who they are at their core, and then the same is true of church. So we were definitely under pressure. The world was all changing, and I think that core thing of how do we care for and love each other was what I saw the vestry doing. And I don't want to overlook the fact that you and the other 10 members of the vestry were committed to those check-ins. I mean, still are. But I remember times we have check-ins and like Cherie would be driving or have a baby. She wouldn't be driving. Her husband would be driving. But I mean, sometimes those check-ins were, I can't talk long, but I just want to, know that I'm here, or this is going on with this person. And so it was none of you 12, were told when you ran for the vestry, okay, and by the way, you're going to be meeting every week for this year. I mean, we met almost every week, and be in contact with all your people for that. So I just want to raise up the quality of people stepping up as individuals and as a community to hold together the larger community. And I think that's one of the things that makes me joyful about being here at Abingdon, that drew me in the first place. But there's lots of ways that we are a community in Christ, and so there's ways we're doing that. Does anything come to mind about other things we've done for community or for mission in this past year?
Well, I think we, as a community, I guess it still goes back to stepping up and changing the way we worship. We started with, I think we started with what, Facebook, just for the one service today. And then I think we expanded to the 7:45 outdoor service. And when it got cold, we went to 7:45 outdoor service in our cars, which is where we are now. And we acclimated to whatever we needed to do to keep going, to keep the word of God going, to keep the worship going. I have seen videos of Sven walking from car to car at the 7:45 service with little tray of wafers. And we're rolling down our windows and, taking our little wafer and then waiting for Sven to give us the blessing, and we all eat it at the same time. So for our members who enjoyed coming to our 8 o'clock service, that's been a godsend for them to be able to come together as a group with distance, which is kind of what.
Well, and I'm thinking of this recent Sunday that I forgot to turn my microphone off. And so as I'm going from car to car, when I got to your car, one of the last cars, you said, your microphone's on. So all of the little conversations I was having with everyone was there, and you were very, very gentle, and everybody was very kind. You said, turn it off. But what I've seen in that is, whether it's in Zoom, in a class, or other things, I've seen that happen so many times with people at Abingdon stepping in and being that teacher friend to learn this new thing, which is the same thing that I would say to Abingdon pre-pandemic, when people would come and they say, can I help you juggle the prayer book and the hymnal? Can I, so we worship using this sort of clunky book. And we don't start on page 1. We start in the middle of the book, and then we jump around. And I see that same thing of people helping other people use the technology, a book or a Zoom or whatever, to be part of the community and be part of the worship. And so I think those one of the things that have stayed around.
I'll say this one more time. Hope I'm not repeating another film, but for that 7:45 service, what I've noticed is that when we get there, we're all looking for a way to help, which is what you said, from bringing the microphone out, from bringing the podium out, because those things, the only thing that stays there pretty much, I guess, is the tent. But the communion table's not there, the mic is not there, the podium is not there, and we're all really kind of stumbling over each other trying to help. I've finally gotten to the point that I just leave, because I know there's probably 10 people are going to be going into church and helping to clean up things. So that's a sense of community too. People just wanting to help, to do something, to provide a service for the service.
Yeah. And you made me think about the day that we set up our big tent. A number of us were gathered together. We had the big tent that the church owns. And there was a real quick conversation. Do we put this tent near the door to the church so that we can worship? Or do we put it near the parish house so that community groups can come and meet? And it was like a unanimous, fast decision. Everybody there said it needs to be here by the parish house, so that AA and the Women's Club and others that are coming to meet here have a space to meet. So that essence of the church caring for the wider community, I saw in that very tangible way as well.
And where we initiated and the women's spirituality group during this, our initial plan was to meet at the parish house, and we were going to do it the second Saturday, whatever. And I believe I'm trying to get my dates straight. I know we didn't meet. We switched up because of COVID, but we managed to, thanks to Tony Hogg and Winona, Terry, Cherie, and myself. But a lot goes to Tony for figuring out that Zoom and figuring out a way so that we could have the wider community of women come in and join us in those meetings. So that's been really successful, and we've gotten a lot of compliments about the programs that we've managed to put together. So.
And I think we've seen a lot of people stepping up, just like the folks you were just mentioning, Natalie. I mean, we've seen our staff of our church, step up and step out of their comfort zone to go to an online worship format. The incredible technological hurdles, the organizational hurdles of getting musicians to come in individually and record things, and then of of trying to have, 8 children 10 years and younger have a successful Zoom meeting. I mean, of trying to keep contact going out to our parish the way that Wendy does, and Sven kind of being such a critical part of the tech crew with Sharon and David Evans and Linda Josem. It's just been a lot of people stepping up and stepping out of their comfort zone, and that's a remarkable thing, and another thing to be held up as sort of a really bright area of hope that our parish brought to the world this year.
Mhm. I have the occasion, because I'm here a lot, I have the occasion on normal times of people coming by, they're looking for genealogy or they're doing some kind of history thing. And they come into the church, they say, oh, can we see in the church? And if I have the key and the time, I open the door and I give them the little tour of things, and they're all, as expected, they're like, oh, this is gorgeous, it's beautiful. And I say, it is beautiful, but the most beautiful part of Abingdon is the congregation. And so I think this has sort of illustrated that again, when we can't get to the physical beauty that is our building, we have still had the charismatic beauty, which are the people of things. Well, it's been a great conversation, but I'm gonna give you two the last word on this, because we could talk for a long time on community and mission and things, but Natalie, you've been our junior warden for the past year. You've got another year to go on the vestry, but any final words as our junior warden as we conclude 2020?
Well, it's certainly been challenging and unexpected, the events. But it hasn't been, I'd say it hasn't been as difficult as I imagined it would be when I took this on. But I'm thinking when I was junior warden, when I first became junior warden, we did have our auction, our auction. I can't think of, lost the words here.
The Mardi Gras, yeah.
We had our Mardi Gras, so that was probably the one thing I really had to kind of organize. The rest of it's been it's gone. I think it's gone rather smoothly. It's been enjoyable. It's been a little added to my resume. But really, it's been quick. The year has. That's one thing about COVID. Nothing was dragging with COVID. Everything was bit of bing, bit of bang. But by the time you thought you had to answer the one thing, somebody would change the question. So gonna miss you, Frank.
Well, that's a great segue. Frank, you've been our senior warden. You've been on 3 years on the vestry. What words do you want to leave this conversation and this year with?
Well, we miss worshiping in person with all you guys. So the loss of that is something that can't be overstated. But these talks have been about how Abingdon has been the church, and we have to be the church no matter the situation, and do the best that we can. And so I've just been so heartened to see the parishioners, the vestry members, the staff, just everyone kind of pitching in. And it just, I think about how it sets us up for the years ahead and just the many, many beautiful things in Abingdon's future. I know a lot for Abingdon life falls on the staff. So you, Sven, and Elisa, Wendy, and Carolyn, I just have just unending gratitude to you guys for leading us in this challenging year, and brighter years ahead, I'm sure.
Well, as y'all know, the mission of Abingdon is to be a community in Christ, sharing God's love with all people. And thank you for being critical and generous members of that community, and for sharing your love, which helps us all share God's love with everyone. So thank you for the conversation. It's been great. I wish we could talk long. We probably can after I hit the end record button. But and thank you for your service and your love of the church.
Definitely.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you for watching this conversation with members of Abingdon Church as we've explored how the church has been the church in 2020. There are a series of 8 videos that comprise this annual report. Hope you'll watch them all. And please join us for worship, service, and faith. Abingdon Church.